All right, let's just get into it. I see kind of the usual suspects here, which is nice because we've got people attending week over week, even though I know everyone's been really busy. And then we've got some new people as well. We've got some buyers and intermediaries, which is great. I like trying to cover both those worlds. We're all going after the same target. So I think today, and I've got a lawnmower outside, so if this noise with the background noise gets to be too much, if someone wouldn't mind just letting me know in the chat box, so I'm not just, I can fix it to a degree, but you can't do very much. It's work from home situation is what it is. So let's just get into it today. What I'd like to do today is kind of zip back up to 30,000 feet, look at the funnel and just have a chat about what's working, where we're going in 2021. We've had a lot of questions on connecting the dots, right? So each week we're talking about the general process, the 5-stage process for social selling, for deal origination. And then we try to zero in on one little thing. I'm going to zip back up today a little bit, just walk through the funnel, go through what we see working, what's changed a bit, and hopefully just have a conversation. If there are questions in real time, great. If not, we always get the questions after the webinar. Don't be shy. If you have the questions, you can throw those in at any time. We'll just address them at the end of the webinar. But so today we'll just go through the brief intro that we do every week. What is this that we're talking about week in, week out, and why does it matter? Couple updates on just how to leverage BizNexus, and then one very clear retargeting example, how we leverage our automation funnel that we've recently launched to use retargeting for deal origination. So I'd like to spend the majority of this chat really just talking about the funnel in its entirety, and how that's really changing, continuing to change in this environment. Basically, everything that happened pre-COVID, with events, with exchanging business cards and industry events, and then getting to know the person and develop the relationship on an ongoing basis from there. That's flipped. You want to do as much of this virtually as you can. You want to do as much of this digitally. If you can automate the top of your funnel, and then set up automations for mid to bottom of the funnel, and really try to get the conversation after the prospect already knows about you, about the prospect, you've qualified each other. That is much more scalable. It's much more valuable in this environment if you're doing deal origination on an ongoing basis. Everybody here, I think, knows me. I run BN.Digital, BizNexus. I've been doing this deal origination in some form or fashion for really the past 20 years. So I've been at this for the duration of my career, and this is a space that continues to change. I mean, it's changed. In 20 years, it's obviously changed from the cold emails and cold calls to where we are today. But really, quarter over quarter, the tools that we're using, just everything that's becoming available in this space, it's a really exciting spot to be. So we have a lot of fun doing it. The point of everything that we talk about here is to build your online brand for your target prospects, for the business owners who you're targeting, whether you're an intermediary or trying to acquire one business to operate, or running a fund and acquiring multiple primary acquisitions and add-on acquisitions. You want to make sure that you're getting those people into your online Rolodex, into your online ecosystem, and then staying in front of them. And then you also want to be clear about who your target referral prospects are, the financial advisors, the accountants, the lawyers, who can bring you your end target prospect on an ongoing basis. What are the pools, the online pools that they're swimming in? What are the trade shows that have gone virtual really over the past 6 months? They're launching new webinars, new conferences. There's a lot of opportunity there to get in front of these target prospects and referral prospects in this new world that we're in. End goal of all of this is to get the face-to-face, right? And that face-to-face can be the Zoom meeting, it can be the phone call, it can be the sit down, but ideally you're doing that when you've qualified your prospect, they've qualified you to a degree. They know how you're offering, how your services fit with their pain points, with their needs, and vice versa. So, the breaking bread is always going to be a part of the deal process, in my opinion. I think it's just much more valuable if that is happening closer to the bottom of the funnel. You don't want to waste your time meeting somebody who you haven't qualified, meeting somebody who, isn't at that point where they know enough about your brand, they know enough about your social proof, where they're ready to have that conversation about what their exit options might be, how you can help with their exit planning, or what a business valuation might look like. So the 5 stages that we talk about on an ongoing basis in this webinar: optimizing your online brand to meet the pain points of your end target prospect, right? So it's not about you, it's about them. Targeting, I talk a lot about this because it's so important. If you nail your targeting, you're going to save a lot of time, a lot of wasted time downstream with your end target prospects, with your referral prospects. Really, that all comes down to data, cleaning data. That's a huge part of what we do here at BN.Digital. Building the campaigns, making sure those are hyper focused on each target prospect. So they're not generalized, they're personalized, so they convert, so they get the response. And then nurturing prospects on an ongoing basis, staying top of mind, staying in front of them, proving that you are a qualified authority in the area of business acquisition and sale, not by beating your chest in a salesy way, but by showing, right, through your posting, through storytelling, through social proof, to get those prospects to the point where they're familiar enough with your brand, with your offering, where they are ready to be captured, to convert, to get that cup of coffee. That's the whole process in a nutshell. So really, I'm going to skip the updates. Just if you've been on BizNexus, you've seen that we've done a lot of updates. We have a lot more coming. We have integrations coming with partner platforms. We're really excited about that. So engage, because the activity is going to be scaling pretty exponentially over the next couple of quarters. So if you haven't finished up your profile, you're not going to be getting matched appropriately, regardless of which side you're on. So if you're an intermediary, you're not going to get matched with the buyers. If you haven't completed your profile, if you don't have a photo, you don't match at all now. But you really want to make sure that you set your deal preferences, and for buyers, you have to do the same. You have to really, as much as you can show you are a qualified buyer, the more you're going to match with the deals, especially if those are private pre-sim deals. If you haven't finished your profile, you won't match at all with those. So that's it. That's the only update I'll give on that today. Everything that we talk about, BizNexus.com. Our agency is BN.Digital. That's where you can find us. So yeah, now let's move on. Let's get into it. I'll show you just how we implement retargeting through our agency, because I'll get to that in this conversation. But really what I'd like to do is just zip back up to 30,000 feet and talk about this funnel. We have a lot of people in here today who are just starting this process, or who have been in this process for a while. And it's nice to zip back up and take a look at the funnel and what you're doing on a regular basis. And a lot of these tools have changed since the last time we really did this, right? So what is the funnel? Top of the funnel, think of this as the conference, right? Where you're meeting somebody, exchanging a business card. You don't know who they are, they don't know who you are, but you know that you have enough overlap where you can exchange your business cards, and they'll be open to a phone call potentially, right? Or you can put them in your email list, et cetera. That's top of the funnel, where you're really just talking about meeting somebody who makes you curious enough to have another conversation, potentially. Bottom of the funnel, you want to educate your prospects. You want to nurture your prospects about who you are, how you're qualified in the area of business acquisition and sale. How do your services, how does your skill set meet the needs of your end prospect? How does it solve the pain points for your end prospect? And then down to the bottom of the funnel, how do you get the hook in? How do you convert them? How do you get them on the phone? How do you get them in the meeting? How do you get them to actually open up and have a conversation about, well, I've thought about selling, but you really haven't prioritized it. This is what my timeline might look like. Let's have a chat, right? So top of the funnel, what we've seen working really well. LinkedIn is great for targeting. And I say this all the time. You think of LinkedIn as the tip of the spear, and that's the approach you want to take. Do not try to be salesy on LinkedIn. Don't try to convert on LinkedIn. If you can use Sales Navigator in particular to zero in on your prospects, on your referral prospects, that is a level of targeting that you'll be hard pressed to find with other channels, right? Cold email you can as well, but with LinkedIn, people tend to be more receptive, and it's kind of the combo punch on LinkedIn, which I love, where your first approach is just getting them to accept you into their network, getting to lower their shield, so to speak, right? So if they're in your network, they're going to be more open to an approach. You're not going to make the approach right off the bat. If you follow the process that we teach, you're just going to educate them through social posting, maybe one light statement about your value proposition, who you are, and your contact info. But LinkedIn really should be seen as the tip of the spear where you're getting in touch with these prospects. And the worst thing that you can do at that stage is burn your brand, right? You want to get them into your online Rolodex, get all the data that you can get about the prospects so you can continue the conversation off channel. So you can continue to touch those prospects via email, via phone, invite them to a Zoom conference, whatever you're doing. But if you jump in and you're salesy on LinkedIn, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be a fail, especially if you try to hit them with a bottom of the funnel approach when it's still the top of the funnel. If you're asking them to sit down with you and you've literally just been accepted into their network, that's going to be a fail, and you're going to burn your brand. And if you're doing that at scale, worse, you're going to burn your brand with the 90% of business owners who are just not going to be ready for the conversation at that moment. So you want to be really careful on LinkedIn, but it's very, very powerful. Cold email is great. We get a lot of results from that, but you're really hitting them right between the eyes. You want to keep it short, keep it sweet. The days of long, drawn out emails do not work. It should be a statement of your value proposition. And ideally, you're using tools, using data to make sure that this actually works, right? So the problems that we see with cold email frequently, one, bad data, right? So if you have bad data, if you have emails that are bouncing, you're going to get marked as spam. That's going to kill your entire cold email campaign before it starts. So you need to make sure that your data is clean. You need to run everything through bounce checkers, manually go through and make sure that the prospects actually meet the messaging that you're sending, right? Because everything needs to be hyper targeted and everything in the cold email should be personalized. You should use some sort of tool, and those things rotate on an ongoing basis in terms of deliverability, in terms of what's working well, what's not. But you should use a tool where you have clear visibility into who is opening an email, who is not, who's clicking an email, who's not. The reason for that is because you can send follow-up campaigns based on that information. So, if 30% of your target list opens an email on first campaign, you can resend that campaign with a different subject line to the 70% who didn't originally open that first campaign email, right? And so on. So you can make sure that your value proposition is actually getting in front of the eyeballs that it needs to get in front of. So if you spend the time and the effort to put together a list of, let's say, 1,000 prospects, right? And if you just run one email blast, if you're doing it on something like MailChimp, maybe 20% of the 1,000 people open up the email, right? If you don't do any follow-up, then 800 of those prospects have never seen your messaging. If you're using a tool that allows you to resend to opens and then send follow-up messaging according to activity, not just based on time. Like very often you'll see a time-based drip, right? So initial email, 3 days later, second email, 5 days later, third email, repeat. It's much better if you can base that on activity, right? On what people are actually doing. Are they clicking? Are they opening? Are they opening 5 times? Are they opening 1? And then ideally, you can set some sales tasks in there. So if you see people who might not be replying, but they've opened the email 5 times, they've clicked through to check out your web page. Ideally, you have lead scoring, you have some task automation where those leads get kicked up to the front burner and you clearly see this person is somebody who I should lob a call into, right? So that's cold email, LinkedIn, very good top of the funnel. Snail mail, that also works, but the way we like to do it is if we're going to do any snail mail, start with the data again, right? So get a list, make sure that you have the addresses, make sure that you have the emails, make sure that you have LinkedIn, make sure that you have all of the contact info that you'd need before you launch any sort of integrated campaign. So with drop notes, with snail mail, if you send out that snail mail, you should immediately follow up with an email campaign, 3 weeks after sending. And then once you launch the email campaign, you'll have clear visibility into who has seen your message, who has not, who has seen your brand, who has not. Then maybe you start inviting those people into LinkedIn, right, into your network. And then if you follow that up with a telemarketing call and they have all of the data, so your telemarketer can hop into your CRM and they can clearly see each contact. Okay, this contact, John Doe, business owner, has been sent a snail mail. They've been sent a flyer and they were sent an email, but they didn't open it. We invited them into our LinkedIn. They didn't accept. Now I can make my telemarketing call. And I know that as far as the end prospect is concerned, they haven't seen our brand. So I should treat that call accordingly, right? If you do integrated campaigns like that in this environment across multiple channels, that is very, very effective, especially when you're talking about nurturing a campaign, nurturing a prospect over time. And business owners in particular in deal origination, you're talking about a very high ticket sale, very high ticket commission. You're talking about somebody who's been building something for 30 plus years and it's a one-time transaction. So if you're going to win that transaction as an intermediary, or if you're going to win that transaction as a one-time buyer or as a private equity buyer, you need to establish your brand, you need to establish your bona fides across multiple channels. And this is a great way to do it through integrated campaigns. Now, in terms of nurturing, what do we see working? Once you have these leads coming in at the top of the funnel, right? So at the top of the funnel, you have these prospects coming in. Let's say you're using a CRM. Doesn't matter where they're coming from. Cold email, LinkedIn, drop note, telemarketing. They're coming in at the top of the funnel. You should be marking these leads, lead source. Where did they come from? So you know, right? You should be marking these leads as contact type. Is this a business owner? Is it a financial advisor? Is this an accountant? Is this a lawyer? And then mid-funnel, ideally, if you're using a CRM, you have messaging, whether that's a one-time, thanks for being in my network, thanks for whatever you have for the statement of value proposition message, that should be targeted towards contact type. So the financial advisor will get one automatic email. The business owner will get a different automatic email. The lawyer will get a different automatic email. If they're getting entered into a drip, absolutely, that should be highly customized. Otherwise, you're not going to be bringing the people down the funnel. You're going to be getting unsubscribes. You're going to be losing them, right? So you want to make sure that you're tagging the leads coming at the top of your funnel as a certain type of contact, and that your engagement mid to bottom of the funnel matches clearly with that contact type. Very, very important. Now, generally speaking, a newsletter is a great catch-all. So that's our first kind of recommendation, typically with the agency, for people who have no mid to bottom of the funnel practice in place. Just rolling all of your contacts over into a newsletter, sharing some articles, having a quick intro, and then with a clear call to action at the bottom of each newsletter, to reach out for a confidential business evaluation, to have a chat about what your exit options might be. That will work on an ongoing basis. If you're doing a newsletter or paying somebody to do a newsletter once a month, at least you're keeping your brand out there with these prospects. A newsletter is very valuable, whether a prospect opens up that newsletter or not. If you see your name, John Doe, if you see BizNexus, Adam Ray, and a title coming into the inbox, it's still top of mind, right? Because you've already established your value proposition at the top of the funnel with your messaging, if you've done this correctly. And then mid to bottom of the funnel, you just want to stay top of mind, maintain awareness. That's the game. Keep them top of mind. So when they're actually ready to have that conversation about a business valuation, about what their exit options might be, you're first in line, right? You get that first at bat, and you constantly stay top of mind with that call to action. So you give them the opportunity, the clear opportunity, the dummy proof opportunity to reach out at that moment if they're ready. Now, bottom of the funnel, ideally, you do have those sales tasks in your CRM, like I was mentioning, where if someone has opened a newsletter 5 times every month, they're opening your newsletter 5 times, they're clicking your articles about selling a business on an ongoing basis. you should have some sort of automation in place where that lead is getting identified, right? So their lead score should be, if it's 1 to 100, they should get kicked up to a 90 if they're doing that. So you can lob in a phone call, right? That's a great conversion tactic. For Zoom webinars, fantastic. Gives you a reason to lead up to the Zoom. If you run an email program or a LinkedIn program for your webinar, or if you're having a webinar, you want to send an initial email to John Doe, ask John, do you have any questions you would like me to address? Anything that you'd like me to cover in the webinar. Then you have the webinar, and then you can send a follow-up to send them the copy of the webinar, ask if you address their questions. And then if it's, a prospect who you want to have that sit down with, great time to ask for that conversation, because you've already gone through the effort of providing value. And if you've done a good job with this, they're going to be much more open to having that conversation with you. So with a business owner, that's highly valuable. The newsletter, again, we went through that. Direct email, if you can do the same thing with a sales task, do it with an email. Know when to email the leads who are clearly marked with a lead score based on activity. That's really, really valuable. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about here before we move to a close is bottom of the funnel, mid to bottom of the funnel. Great process is retargeting, right? And I've mentioned this on more than a few of these webinars, but we do consistently get these questions. What is retargeting? How do we use this? Retargeting is cheap, right? So if you're doing it right, it's very effective, and it is not expensive. And what retargeting is at the bottom of the funnel. Let's go back to this John Doe business owner. Let's say John Doe business owner has come in through, email. We've labeled John Doe as a business owner in the CRM. John Doe has been rolled over into our newsletter. He's been, exposed to social posting about you, why you're a qualified authority in the area of business acquisition and sale, et cetera, et cetera. Ideally, in the newsletter or in the posting, John Doe has clicked through to your website. Maybe John Doe has visited your sell a business page on your website. That's where you get John Doe with retargeting, right? So you can do list-based retargeting. So you can just upload a list of your business owner prospects who are coming in at top of the funnel and then show ads only to the business owners on that list. Or you can do like a URL, a web page based retargeting program, where if everybody who's visited that sell a business page on your website gets targeted, gets pixeled, so you can show ads only to those people who have clicked through and visited the sell a business page, right? So it's highly valuable, because with retargeting, use the Amazon analogy, because that's what we all see all the time. If you're looking at, for me, I've been looking at rowers, right? I want to buy a rower for the winter because I'm here in Boston, and it's likely to be a miserable winter. So I want to make sure I have some activity here in my home office that I can do day in, day out. So I've been looking at rowers, and I've seen these rowers popping up when I'm on Bloomberg. I've seen them on all over the internet. That's because I've been pixeled, right? It's because the Concept2 company, they're running retargeting programs. So if I'm looking at a rower on Amazon, or if I'm looking at their rower on their site, they're showing me the Concept2 rower across all of these sites, these partner websites that I'm browsing, right? So maybe I see the rower on Bloomberg tomorrow. Maybe a week from now, I see a 25% discount on a rower, which would be amazing. That's not going to happen in this COVID environment, because everything costs twice as much if you're talking about athletic workout equipment. But that's concept. I mean, that's the concept of retargeting in a nutshell. And why that's so powerful with deal origination is because in this industry, that 90-95% of the people you approach are not going to be ready, right? When you first approach them, you need to stay in touch with them. So retargeting allows you to stay in front of that 90% on an ongoing basis in an economical way, in a highly targeted way. So yes, the newsletter is important. Yes, the social posting is important. Drips, Zoom, very important, but retargeting is plug and play. Once they're pixeled, it's automated. You don't have to do a thing. So let me just show you Let's see if I'll do this here. In our automation hub, I'm going to show you an example of kind of what we do, right? So we like to work with personas. So if we have business owners coming in, if we have buyers coming in, strategic acquirers, vendors, they're all getting assigned a persona, right? So we know who's coming in at the top of the funnel. We label them, and then we do everything, the newsletter, the drips, everything that we've talked about. But in our automation hub, SharpSpring in particular has something called perfect audience, which is amazing, right? Because it allows you to just put in any domain. You can do it by list as well. Just like I said, like if we were going to, let's just, for example, you'd have a dashboard. We're not running anything with this. This is just a demo CRM here. But you have a dashboard and you can create audiences very easily, right? So I could create an audience on BN.Digital if I wanted to really start promoting these lunch and learns, which we haven't done at all aside from our newsletter. I could take this URL and I could very easily add this in as a unique audience, right? So anybody who lands on that URL, anybody who lands on that social selling page, you're pixeled. I've got you. And I can show you video ads. I can show you text ads on an ongoing basis. And these are bottom of the funnel ads, right? So it would be more specific about, like I could talk about, want to learn about retargeting? Check out our lunch and learn, right? It's not a general ad. It's an ad focused on somebody who has already seen your offering, right? So if somebody has visited your sell a business page, it's not a general ad that you're showing. You're running an ad about confidentiality, right? Maintaining confidentiality in the selling process, how you work with that. Something that's very specific to the seller, right? Business valuations for manufacturing, right? Who are the private equity buyers for manufacturing in Wisconsin, right? That's how specific you want to get with the retargeting ads. So they convert, and it's very, very valuable if you can do that. So that's kind of it, guys. Just wanted to go through that funnel and again, refocus on retargeting. In theory, it's very valuable. In practice, there are different ways to do it. We love using perfect audience with our automation funnel. But if you have, Facebook Ninja, somebody who can set up the retargeting ads for you, that's all right. I wouldn't try to do that on your own because the Facebook ad platform is kind of a nightmare. But finding some sort of retargeting platform that works well, very important, and tying that to the rest of your deal origination funnel and making sure that those retargeting ads are highly focused. They're specific, it's bottom of the funnel messaging, and they're not general. And that's about it. So I'll leave it at that. And if anybody has any questions, I'll just wait a few minutes. Otherwise, we'll just kick it over to next time.